Professor Mahadevan, first of all, extremely grateful for you to having accepted our invitation to be the first online speaker for the year, Platinum Jubilee year of BMA. And what a apt topic that you have chosen to guide us on. So thank you so much. I would like to introduce our moderator of the day, and then I would request Dr. Page to take the session from then onwards. All of you, probably most of you are aware that Dr. Page is one of the veterans of the industry and an educationist with 50 plus years of service from the government in various capacities. I think he was managing director of Konkan Development Corporation 45 years ago, sir, if I'm not mistaken.
Till 90.
And I know that he was involved in several projects that actually put the ground rules and realities to put India on the path where we see now to be flourishing. Dr. Page is a very learned person who has been guiding and helping most of us by giving apt advice at the right time. And he is one of the most knowledgeable persons I know on any topic that we tend to address, especially when it comes to the ancient wisdom that Indian knowledge base provides. So we have such an apt moderator to be able to get the best out of Professor Mahadevan. So I'm thankful to you, Professor Page, for having accepted and to be the moderator. The session we will run for 90 minutes, and hopefully, I think by 7:30, we will be able to relieve Professor Mahadevan, who has actually just moved out of a class that he was taking 5 minutes ago and straight come into this session for us. So with this, I thank all of you to have joined us, and I hand it over to Professor Page to kindly take this session forward. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. President Kiran Yadav, distinguished past presidents, members of BMA, and dear participants, and the distinguished speaker of the evening, Professor Mahadevan ji. Thank you very much, Kiran Yadav, for inviting me today as a moderator for this talk, Management Excellence, the IKS Way, by Professor Mahadevan ji. I'm honored to take this opportunity of interacting with him this evening. However, keeping in view the tradition of Guru Shishya Parampara, I must invoke the powers incarnate of Paramananda Madhava for his blessings this evening on this Madhushravan Tritiya. Indi Varadala Shamo Indira Nandakandanam Vandaru Janamandaram Vandeham Jadunandaram Sharada Sharadam Bhojo Vadana Vadanam Bhuje Sarvada Sarvada Smakam Sannidhim Kriyat Ya Kundendu Tushar Dhavala Ya Shubhra Vastravrata Ya Veeda Vardhanda Ganditakara Vashvet Vadmasana Ya Brahmachyuta Shankara Puthivi Devyai Sada Vandita Tamam Patu Saraswati Bhavati Nishesha Zadhyapaha Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshuta Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Steeped in the tradition and discipline of Guru Shishya Parampara, Professor Mahadevan ji, I offer my deepest regards and salutations to you and your distinguished gurus and acharyas who have shared their ancient wisdom with you, the glimpse of which we are seeking this evening. Good evening, sir. On behalf of the distinguished gathering of professionals, practitioners, corporate leaders, and management alike, I heartily welcome you, sir, to the talk, Management Excellence, the IKS Way. After having studied ancient knowledge systems at the feet of the acharyas, you have acquired latest management inputs from across the world. You have been sharing this wonderful blend of knowledge and wisdom of IKS in IIM Bangalore and the academia. You have been a professor of operational management at the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, since 1992. You have more than 27 years of wide-ranging experience of having spoken at reputed institutions as IIT Delhi, XLRI Jamshedpur. You've been a visiting scholar of Amherst School of Business Administration, Dartmouth College, New Hampshire in 1999-2000. Also retainer consult with Deloitte Consulting in 2001 and 2002 in the US. You have been earlier the chief editor of IMB Management Review. Your path-bearing paradigms of Bhagavad Gita and the distance learning programs are well known throughout the country, sir. In traditional areas of management, the research interests include design of service systems in customer co-creation of value and order allocation of issues in electronic markets. You have been the founder, vice chancellor of Chinmaya Vidyapith, a university for applied Sanskrit and Indian wisdom during 2016 and 18, sir. As indicated on behalf of the August gathering, I would urge you to present the IKS overview, keeping in view our doubts and anxieties as we struggle with our ignorance. What is IKS? Its overview. Why should we study IKS? How should we study IKS? The pathways and guidance and the way forward. On behalf of the doubting Thomases, I must say that our purpose here is august and pure. As members of premier institution involved in seeking excellence in management education and practice, we are keen to get a glimpse of the transformational power of IKS. How could we individually and jointly ascend the path of excellence in management with help of IKS? This is our urge. I'm aware that 60 odd minutes of interaction is too short a time, sir, to bridge the great divide between us. But I'm sure your talk will set us on the path which once lit millions on the horizon, Devi Surya Sahasrasya. IKS holds that power, and I'm reminded of the promise of the Paramananda Madhava, Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata, Abhyuthana Sarvatmanam Tadatmanam Srujanyam. That promise of appearing again on the horizon, Sambhavami Yuge Yuge, that he will deliver in some form or the other, has kept hopes of the billions through millennia as we always anxiously wait for the divine encounter. But I would only submit, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya. Lead us kindly light. Professor Mahadevan, sir.
Good evening, Dr. Yadav, the president of the Bombay Management Association, Dr. Vijay, who is kindly agreed to moderate the past presidents, a very esteemed set of colleagues from the industry. I know Bombay is the place for professionalism in this country. I've always been inspired by Bombay whenever I, sort of get into the city and get out of it. Notwithstanding all the traffics and all that we may have, it's my great privilege. Therefore, I feel very blessed to be in the company of all of you and share some of my thoughts in Indian knowledge system today over the next maybe 60 minutes. And then, of course, we can have a little bit of a discussion. I hope I am reasonably audible to everyone and I can carry on. Thank you. So, Dr. Page made a very nice quote of a very famous pair of shlokas from Bhagavad Gita. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tada atmanam srijamyaham. Mumati and paritranaya sadhunam, dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. The moment he quoted it, I reminded of my class. I used this shloka to discuss what is called Walrusian equilibrium. Today we are talking of tomato prices going to 140 rupees and 220 rupees and so on. The question, therefore, is how is it going to come down? And what is the mechanism to intervene? That's exactly what Krishna is saying there. The Avatara Purusha here may be government of India or somebody else to bring Dharma back to its position and so on. So I was reminded of that concept which I used to teach, which I keep teaching to my students when I teach Gita and show how some of these ideas of Walrusian equilibrium is so nice and so on. Anyway, so now what I want to do today is to show you in the next perhaps 50-55 minutes the power of what is called Indian knowledge systems. And I would like to start it in a very unconventional way, so to speak. What I will do is I want to first quote from Rig Veda Samhita, and I will recite it exactly the way the rishis recited 3,000 years back, or maybe 5,000 years back, and then I will continue, and I will tell you why I'm doing it. So let me first recite this beautiful mantra. Na sada sin no sada asit tadanim nasit rajo no vyoma paroyat kimavari vakah kusya sharmannam vak kima asit gahanam gabhiram na mrityura asit amritam na tarhi naratrya anha asit praketah Anidavatam swadhaya tadekam tasmaat dhanyanna para kinchanasa. These are the first two mantras. There are actually, I think, 9 mantras, 8 or 9 mantras in this very beautiful suttam called Nasadhiya Sutta. Now, that is the reason why I recited this at the beginning of such a lecture here. For many of us, the moment somebody recites it, we come to a conclusion, Purohit has come, some puja is going to happen, some mantra is being told to, perhaps offer some oblations to the god and goddesses and so on. Little we know that this particular sutta is one of the most researched sutta all over the world. This talks about the origin of the universe. You just go to Google and then ask for Nasadhiya Sutta and then see what kind of discussions are going on. Actually, our ancestors try to understand origin of universe is a very big question today. You have the black hole, you have, there is a research on God particle, all kinds of things are happening because modern science is unable to understand the origin of the universe. Whereas in the 8-9 mantras here, there is a very deep speculation how the origin of universe might have happened and what were the starting conditions, etc., etc. So the point I want to make is 70% of the mantras belong to this category. Just because we are reciting it in a particular way, it doesn't really mean it is religious. It could be religious, but it has a lot of science. It has a lot of speculative, imaginative things which are very required for progress to happen and so on. So that's why I thought I will start with this. What I want to do is very quickly to tell you what IKS by showing rather than talking, and then I'll come to the talking part of it. Now, here is a very beautiful temple. I was born 20 kilometers from this temple in Tamil Nadu. Okay, and this temple is very, very special for the simple reason what I am showing you are pillars. What you see there are a cluster of pillars, so to speak. These pillars actually emanate the Saptaswaras. You can take a stick, you can take some piece of a rod or something and start beating. You can actually conduct a 3-hour concert sitting there and then playing these, pillars with different kind of hitting it at different places and so on. This temple was constructed in 700 CE, which is 1,400 years back. Okay, by a Pandya king. He's called Nindrasir, Nedumaran, and so on. The interesting thing about this temple, and there are quite a few Pandya temples which has the similar thing, that a cluster of 48 pillars were carved from a single stone, and they surround a central pillar. So it's all from a single stone. A single stone is cut into so many pieces, intricate pieces. I don't know how people were able to do it. What kind of tools they were using and so on. There are 161 pillars in this temple. That makes the Saptaswaras, the musical sounds. And when you actually beat it, the surrounding pillars vibrate, obviously because the sounds, travel and so on and so. Dr. Kiran, I see your hand going up.
Professor Mahadevan, your presentation slides are not moving. It is still stuck on the first slide, sir.
Oh, is it so?
Yeah, so
I
I
will
just thought
stop
I'll bring it to your
share.
notice.
Yeah, I will stop share and share again. I'm sorry. Are you able to see this screen now?
Yes, sir. We are able
Okay.
to see it now.
Yeah, thank you for pointing. I'm sorry about it. And let me shift the slide. Is the slide moving now?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Pillar, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, I was talking about this temple, and it has a cluster of pillars, 161 pillars. Madurai Meenakshi temple also has it. Now the traffic, the tourist population is so much, they have covered it. Nobody should keep on tapping it and it will break and so on. There are quite a few temples in Pandya kingdom which has musical pillars. Now, there are quite a few questions which will come out of it. How did they know sound engineering? And this material is the hardest material to work on. Granite is the hardest material to work on known to mankind. And if you don't use the right kind of tools, it will break. Then you have intricate shapes, you have intricate sort of gaps and so on. So it leaves a lot of questions in front of us. How did they do it 1,500 years back? Something which is a living monument today. I'm only showing what are available today. So that you don't speculate about Indian knowledge systems by any ways. We all know this pillar. This is the famous, Qutub Minar pillar. This is 1,800 years old. It was somewhere near Orissa and Udaygiri, and then it was shifted later. But the interesting thing about this is for 1,800 years, it is just been exposed to the open weather. We have not put it on a locker. We have not put it on a room. It has not rusted at all. Absolutely no rust. For 1,800 years of rains and all kinds of temperature changes, etc., happening, nothing is happening. But I brought this because this is famous. But let me tell you, there are about 40 locations in India where we have such pillars. Right? We have, Madhya Pradesh and Dhar. That pillar is twice bigger than this pillar. Huge pillar. There are Puri, Konark temple, Bhubaneswar, 239 pieces of pillars and so on. Near Shringeri, there is a famous temple called Kollur, Mukambika, just 40 kilometers from Arabian Sea. Iron pillar, which is not rusted. In fact, this Orissa Konark temple is on the sea, on the banks of Bay of Bengal, on the shore of Bay of Bengal. None of these pillars are rusting. So that leaves a question, what is going on here? And all these are 1,500, 2,000 years old, 800, 900 years old, etc., etc. So we have a very big culture of, living monuments which are actually talking of something about our ancestors. What you see here is the only surviving oldest dam in the world. And this dam is in a place called Tiruchirappalli. This is called the Grand Anaikat. In Tamil, they call it as Kallanai. It was built in the 1st century BC by Karikal Chola. And this is the 4th oldest dam in the world and the only surviving dam of that vintage in the world. In 1800, Britishers just added a little bit of 2 more layers and increased the height so that a little more water can be sort of stored. Periodically, they keep painting and etc., etc. They do all that. So therefore, we have plenty of these. Although I show an example from South India, I know that the water management system in Rajasthan, in Gujarat, and in Pakistan are beautiful. The beautiful structure of step wells and water harvesting mechanisms. If you go to Bihar on this side, you have what is called Ain and Pine system and so on. So, there are a whole lot of ideas on watershed management. How do you sort of, address these issues, which are at least 2,000 years old and living monuments, which bear testimony to what our ancestors actually did. This is a very challenging problem, which Indians solved 2,200 years back, just like that, and then later also. I'll give a little history to it. What you see on the left is called a magic square. And this is a magic square for a sum of 34. What it means is you add any row, it will be 34. You add any column, it will be 34. Both the diagonals will also be 34. So that is called a magic square. In Sanskrit, in our culture, it is called Bhadra Ganita. That's the word they use, Bhadra Ganita. In 2000 years back, you have references of solving this and so on. On the right, what you have is a much complex problem. Don't look at it as a sheet of paper. Look at it as a torrens, as a cylinder. Imagine it is a cylinder. What it means is there are multiple diagonals now. Look at that, 13, 6, 4. The next number will be 1, because imagine it like a cylinder. The diagonal of that will be actually 1. That also is now 34. It's not only the row is 34, the column is 34, the primary diagonal is 34. Any number of diagonals that you can create by making it a circular, cylindrical piece will also be 34. So this is called pan-diagonal magic square or Sarvato Bhadra Ganita. That is the word they use. You see it in Madhya Pradesh, you see it in the port, somewhere in shops, they draw it actually. Our ancestors knew how to solve this problem. That's what I'm told. Now, the one that you see on the right, there is one Narayana Pandita. There is a great Kerala school of math. The greatest contribution to the world was only in Kerala school of math. There are now studies coming up which are saying how they picked up everything and took it to the West and called it as calculus, etc., etc. So there is a Narayana Pandita in 1495. What he said was the one you see on the right side. He gave an algorithm to actually construct it. It is called Turaga Gati, a horse, just like a horse, going in a particular direction. So he developed an algorithm called Turaga Gati, and he said you can make 383 solutions possible for what you have on the right side. And what is interesting is you have numbers from 1 to 16. This is actually 16 numbers organized in a particular way, 1 to 16 in a 4x4. So he said you can organize it in 383 ways to get a pan-diagonal magic square of 34. Now in 1920, which is a good 520 years later, 530 years later, in the American mathematician said that there are only 8 solutions possible. Then 8 years later, 9 years later, in 1929, finally they proved there are 383 solutions possible. So this is a sense of what kind of things that our people were doing 600, 700 years back. Mathematics is a very large subject. I'm not actually getting into it. I just wanted to spill a little bit of things. I do not know how many of you can recognize this fort. This is the only living fort in the world, oldest living fort in the world, not in India. Of course, it is in India. So this fort is 1,000 years old. This was built by King Raval Jaisal in Jaisalmer fort in Rajasthan, and UNESCO heritage site. And it says probably this is the only living fort in the world. So we can create structures which can withstand 1,000 years. In fact, I've been discussing this and how Vastu Shastra and all that with a group of builders and all that I was doing. So I picked up this slide when I was preparing that. So this is a 1,000-year-old only living fort in the world, which is in Jaisalmer. The whole city lives there. It's not a deserted fort. All the forts are deserted forts, actually. Demolished, destroyed, etc., and so on. So I just sprinkled a few things. If all these are happening, they cannot happen out of magic. I mean, we are all engineers, we are all professionals, we are all, seriously, we think through our business, we do so many things. So we will come to a conclusion, all these are not happening by accident. All these are not happening by black magic. So there is something behind all these. So therefore, let me formally define what is Indian knowledge system, which must have been responsible for a few examples I showed you so far. So let me define Indian knowledge systems. So there are 3 terms here: Indian, knowledge, and system. So let me define formally all the 3. When you say Indian, obviously we are talking about indigenous source of knowledge generated by the Indian society. The only thing I would say is I want to qualify it carefully. First of all, geographically, Indian is not what we have after 1947. This is a convenient political formation for a variety of reasons. Moment you say Indian,
थांबा 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 उतरा उतरा तुम्ही. अरे किती वेळ लावतात, किती वेळ लागतात चालू करायचं उड्या टाकायच्यात काय.
I think somebody needs to sort of mute anyway. So it is the Akhanda Bharat. This whole piece of knowledge developed. India is not 1947 and India. India is it's a Akhanda Bharat. It's a subcontinent actually. That's the first qualification. Second, demographically there is a meaning. India means those born or lived for a very substantial amount of time, fully integrating with the native culture and practices. There are Indians who are born here who have gone out. There are foreigners who are born elsewhere but have spent quality time here. I call the later category as Indians, the former category as non-Indians for this purpose. There is one lady who came to the University of Calcutta, spent about 20 years. I think if you want to know about Hindu temples, you have to read her book. Her research on Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, her research on colors and paints and dyes is ultimate. Hindu temples, she has written such a beautiful book. So like that. So many travelers' accounts translated by non-Indians, I would bracket them as about IKS and not IKS. Many of us may think it is IKS. It is not IKS. It is about IKS. Max Muller, what he has said is about IKS. It cannot be IKS. There are issues on that. I mean, if somebody studies deeper, they understand actually. The second part is knowledge. Of course, knowledge is fairly straightforward. It emanates from the wisdom and the insights, which all of us have. We have our own deep experiences, observation, experimentation, analysis, we validate, we improve, we augment. All these are part of human endeavor. So therefore, all that happened in this subcontinent, which belong to this category, is actually knowledge. But the only qualification, again, I have to make is the Indian knowledge has two components. One is what I call it as purely non-literal. Oral health practices. You have a lot of art forms. You have so many of our food and other practices for which there is nothing written. The grandmother knows, the granddaughter knows, and it goes on. So it is informal, I call it, and formal. Formal can be oral or not oral. The entire Vedic is oral. UNESCO has accepted Veda as the only UNESCO heritage which belongs to a bundle of sounds actually. UNESCO sites are actually physical structures, whereas Veda is actually a UNESCO's heritage. It is sound, but it is a UNESCO heritage actually. So, we have formal, which is oral or non-oral, but we have a oral which is completely informal, and it pervades into spiritual, religious, and secular, or whatever you want to call. And of course, system is a very structured methodology where you can nicely classify it and put it in a particular way and understand it and so on. So basically, this is the IKS corpus to the best of my knowledge. You have literary and non-literary. You can split it like that. On the literary, you have Sanatan Dharma, you have the other dharmas, Buddha and Jaina and so on. There's a lot of regional knowledge which we have. And some of them I call it as core, some of them I call it as other. In the core, you have what is called Chaturdasha Vidyas, and I'm not going to get into any of those. I just want to give you a bird's eye view of what it is. But what I want to bring to your attention, it is the core which people think is only Indian knowledge system. In fact, 10 times the size of the core is the other, where you find engineering, you find technology, you find mathematics, you find astronomy, you find building, Vastu, chemical and dyes technology, health, wellness, public administration, management. The list is endless. That is, to me, the most interesting part of Indian knowledge system. The core part is for Atma Vikas. That is for spiritual, unfoldment. But the other part is 10 times bigger than the core part. That's where bulk of very interesting Indian knowledge system is also there. Regional pieces actually retold it in regional languages, added to it, improvised it, put it in different ways and so on and so forth. And of course, we had oral traditions in terms of art forms, health, food and life. This is the only country, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, you travel on the road, every 30 kilometers that you pass, the taste on your tongue can change. The food may be the same. The taste on your tongue can change. That is the diversity that we have preserved in this country. The dosa you eat in Madras will be different from the dosa you eat in Delhi and the dosa you eat in Bombay. We have a whole lot of diversity which we have preserved. All these are oral traditions actually. So anyway, this is a very quick glance of IKS. But what I want to do is, since here is a group of management people, I want to dive a little deeper into the management and public administration ideas which are so beautifully available. I mean, it's a very vast subject again. I have today chosen a very impactful work called Arthashastra. And I want to show what kind of things are being told. I was stunned when I read Arthashastra for the first time. 6,500 sutras or mantras, whatever you want to call it, written in about 15 books, written 2,300 years back. And what amazes me is you want not try, turnover tax, everything is available there. You tell me how to grow revenue, Kautilya is able to give you answers for it. You want to know how to run an organization, he has answers for it. That's the kind of work this Arthashastra is. So I will very quickly again cherry pick a few here and there in the interest of time. I will only sort of quickly go over a little bit of it. Now, the entire Arthashastra is designed on this particular thing called Sapta Prakriti. I have put the sutra at the bottom. Swami Amatya Janapada Durga Kosha Danda Mitrani Prakritaya. Surprisingly, this comes as the first mantra in the first section of chapter 6. Ideally, should have been the first mantra of the first chapter. He has discussed many things, and somewhere midway, he introduces this beautiful Kautilyan state. He says, this is how you have to administer an organization. You need 7 prakritis. That he says much later in book 6, 6.1.1. Now, what are these Sapta Prakritis? Swami is the king. That is the first one. Then you have Amatya. Amatya is the minister. Then you have territory. So let me explain. Amatya has, in Arthashastra, it has 2 meanings. A kingmaker and a group of ministers providing counseling and administrative support and so on. Janapada is a territory. It talks about land planning. How do you grow? How do you increase the economic activity? Wonderful discussions are there. How do you actually make use of this whole land which is available with you and so on, site planning, etc., etc. 4th is the protective layer for the king. There are 7 types of forts. There are different kinds of strategies to protect. All those are there. Of course, treasury, as we know, is the Kosha is the treasury. It's all about how do you manage the finance. Danda is all about what is he called as yoga and kshema. He uses the word yoga and kshema. Yoga is to get things which are very difficult to get. Kshema is to preserve what you get. So he says the citizens must be given yoga and kshema. They should be able to get what they aspire, and they should be able to protect it. Very elaborately, he has talked about law and order. He has talked about the judiciary, the civil and the criminal. Everything is available, actually. And then you have, of course, what is called Ali, the Mitra, which is all about how do you work with people around the other kingdoms, other kings, how do you strategize, how do you have your line of defense. All that things are there. Now, first time when I read it and started contemplating on it, I found that the modern business corporation can be actually styled here. So let me now show you that how Kautilya can be actually used to even understand how do I configure my business organization? How do I look at my business organization? So let me take you there. So on the left is Kautilya, public administration. And on the right, what you see is the business management perspective. For everything that you have on the left, I'm able to see an equivalent on the right. Because when I read Arthashastra, I was able to see this is exactly what he is talking. So what are these? Now, what are these Amatya equivalent? The Amatya equivalent is your board and the CXOs and the consultants. There are so many ideas that he talks about Amatya, you will actually find will be very useful to address in a modern day corporation in what is called CXOs and boards and consultants and etc. etc. And what is this territory? It's all about markets and stakeholders. That is the territory of a business. It's all about employees. It's all about customers, channel partners. It's all about service providers. That is what is my territory. The more I am endowed with that, the more I am stronger in that, the greater is my territory. So many things he talks about. How do you grow a territory? How do you make it economically viable? How do you make it economically, productive? We should borrow those ideas and we should transfer it to the equivalent on to the business organization. Then what is this Durga? Durga is not a fort. CEO does not need a cabin or a strong room to sit in. What is required for a business is strategic barriers. Durga, the equivalent of Durga is strategic barriers. So it's all about know-how and patents and unique processes, etc., etc. Therefore, can we draw some ideas from the Durga strategies that he talks about and transfer it onto our modern day corporation? That's another question which actually comes. Of course, finances are similar, so I'm not going to talk really much about it. He has done a very beautiful financial planning model and all that. Of course, when we talk of Danda, as Kautilya is seeing, the equivalent I see is the modern day controls and processes. The audits and compliances, the welfare, the CSR, the accountability. He talks very similar things. The Yoga Kshema is what he is talking there. Will all translate here. So book 3 and book 4 has a lot of ideas on these matters. Financial planning and this Danda, book 3, 4, and 5. A lot of ideas are there in Arthashastra actually. Then this alley is nothing but collaborators and competitors, if you wish. It's all about, he talks about the kings who are friends, kings who are enemies. How do you actually collaborate? How do you, confront? How do you strategize? All those things are being talked about. Book 7 to 11, 4 books has ideas on that in terms of this alley, in terms of, this is one of his greatest contributions, and you will find, just to give you a sense of it. In fact, he talks about 6 methods of territorial expansion. I will simply remove the word territorial and I will put market. Because our territory for a business enterprise is market. So when you are talking of territorial expansion, what Kautilya is talking, we can actually map it to market expansion, market shares and market expansion. And he talks about 6 strategies. This is very beautifully laid out in Arthashastra, Sandhi and Vigraha and Asana and Yana and Samshaya and Dvaiti Bhava. I mean, when you have to go on go on the offense, when you have to retract, when you have to, shake hands and then move on, when you have to wait for some more time for a strategic entry and etc. All those ideas are available in the context of territorial expansion. So when we read it and when we start internalizing it, many of the business management questions will come and we can start answering. How can we increase the market share? How should we negotiate with potential collaborators, and how do you deal with competitors? When and when not to plan for a new market entry? And what is the value of multiple joint ventures and alliances? All that we can draw from there. Because he has that structure with which he is actually arguing things in his Arthashastra. Just look at this mantra. I keep talking of mantras. Let me throw at least 1 or 2 mantras in front of you, just to get a sense of what it is. Look at how beautifully he argues why you need delegation and decentralization. Look at what he is saying. He is saying, Yaugapattattu karmanam ekatvat anekastatvacha deshakalatyayo ma bhut iti paroksham amatyaihi karayet. What he says is, Yugapat means simultaneous. He says, in an enterprise, there are so many activities which will happen simultaneously. Anekatva, there are different types of activities. Not everybody will have the same skill. Anekastala, it may happen in different places. Things will happen in different places. Things will happen simultaneously. You need different kind of skills and so on. So, Deshakala Teyo Mabur, you should not delay. He talks about customer service. He talks about no delay in time, no delay in place where it has to happen, appropriateness of that. Therefore, paroksham, not in my front. I don't have to see them. I appoint my area manager in Bangalore. I am a CEO sitting in Bombay. My area manager is sitting in Bangalore. Paroksham, not aparoksham. Paroksham amatyaihi karayet. You have to appoint people. That's the only way you can run enterprises so well. So he talks strong ideas of delegation and decentralization. Why is it happening and so on. He has very elaborate salary structure. I'm just showing you a table here. From 48,000 pana. Pana is a unit of measure at that time. 48,000 panas to 16 panas. I have gone only up to 1,000. He has identified an elaborate organizational structure, division of labor, how do you, skill mapping, competency, salary, all those he talks in book 2 of his Arthashastra. So I've just pulled out a particular table to tell you what are all the different salaries for different kinds of people, what kind of roles they should play, all that he talks about. He has 48 directorates. In book 2, you will see. He has a complete organization structure to run a state enterprise. For trade and industry, he has something. For treasury and finance, he has something. He has even things for gambling and entertainment and prostitutes. He has a directorate for prostitutes. All that he has. Because he believes those are very important to actually handle in a society. He was very realistic in what he did. So you have all kinds of, you see, chief controller of gambling, chief controller of entertainers, chief superintendent of temples. Now, what is interesting in Arthashastra, it is not a 10,000 feet document. He will tell, take chief controller of, for example, there is something called, weights and measures. The second one on the left, the top, chief controller of weights and measures. Now, when he talks about it, he says in what frequency you have to calibrate the balances. What are all the ways to calibrate the balance? If somebody does not calibrate, what penalty should be given? That level of detail you will see in Arthashastra. He has talked about in a fractal depth, which is unimaginable in any text. And it's all about management, actually. Financial planning is a master stroke of Arthashastra. He talks about sources of income, different sources of income. He talks about sources of cost and expenditure. How do you do the budgeting? All those are available. For example, you see mulya, price of goods. Baga, 1/6 has to be given. Whatever you produce, 1/6 must be given. It's called Baga. Vyaji, tax on sales tax. Pariga, Klipta, fixed levy charged on ports or river banks. Then Rupika, surcharge on manufacturing. Like that. In fact, I have a complete vocabulary of, I'll show you, but he has a principle. This is a very interesting principle. He says, Pakvam iva aramat palam rajyat avapnuyat. You have to pluck only a fruit which is ripe. Pakvam iva. Don't pluck an unripe fruit. Which means you should collect tax only when it is an opportune time to collect tax. If you try to collect tax before that, he says you will be killed. You will be finished. That's what he says. Varjayet kopakarana. People will get very angry with you, and then so he puts some guiding principles of tax planning, and then he gives elaborate measures for tax planning and collecting tax and so on. Here is a complete table of terms I found in Arthashastra. Various forms of surcharges, fees. So you have, transaction tax. You have countervailing duties, you have monopoly tax, you have entry tax, passport fee. I mean, imagine all these are written 2,400 years back. This is not written 50 years back. This was written 2,400 years back in such a level of detail. What are all the ways you can actually generate revenue and what are all the ways you can spend? This is a master stroke of Kautilya, actually. And look at another example. You just see the level of detail he is giving. He says, books must be audited. So he makes a statement. Books must be audited. Now, then he goes on to give instructions. The account should come on the Ashada full moon day. Just like our 1st April now, It says Ashada full moon day. Ashada full moon day, all accounts must be submitted. Now, officers not coming at the proper time are coming without account books and balances, fine. How much is the fine? When officers come with sealed, and they should come with sealed account books and balances in sealed containers, he should impose restrictions. They should be put in one place. They should not talk to here and there. And you have to finish the whole assessment. That level of detail. That level of detail you'll see in Arthashastra. There's a lot we can learn from Arthashastra even to make our enterprises very efficient. Checks and balances and controls we have to learn from Arthashastra. That level of details are there. I will go to another quickly to Prashna Upanishad, because people think Upanishads are all about God or life and so on. Prashna Upanishad is one of the 10 major Upanishads, and in Prashna Upanishad, let me give a little structure of the Prashna Upanishad. 6 disciples went to a rishi called Pipalada, and then each disciple asked one question, for which the rishi answered. So that's how 6 chapters are there. Prashna Upanishad is only 6 chapters. Because it was question based, the Upanishad is called Prashna Upanishad. So I am now stepping into the 3rd chapter, which means we are talking about the 3rd question. Now, one Shishya asked Pipalada, sir, what is this prana and what is this apana, vyana, udana, something you are all saying? What is all that? In about 10 mantras, so beautifully he describes this prana, apana, vyana, udana, samana. And I found tremendous principles of organization and management and controls in that 10 mantras. So instead of going through the 10 mantras, I will take 2 mantras and then show you the summary of it. So, first 2 mantras are the questions by the disciple. Now Pipalada starts answering. So what he says, Atmanyesha prano jayate, Yataisha purusho chaya, etasmin yetat adatam, manokritena, ayatyam asmin sharire. First he says, just like a shadow follows somebody wherever they go, chaya. When this Atman comes into a body, this prana also will come. That means the child is born. We have become alive and kicking. Now our vital force is working until we are dead. So it is bringing that concept. He says, wherever this Atman goes, this prana will also go. That is how he says. Then very immediately he brings a principle of decentralization. Then the Rishi says, look at what he's saying. He says, Yata Samrat. Samrat is the Chakravarti, no? He is a king. Yata Samrat eva adhikritan niyunte. He will appoint people, adhikaras. He will appoint officers. Why? Etan graman atitishta. Go and sit on these villages. I cannot go to all the places and administer. This is a large enterprise. I cannot go and then go to all the places. I need to decentralize. Pranaha itaran pranan pritak eva sannidatte. So this prana, this rishi is saying, this prana created 4 more fellows. Because prana said, I can't do everything. There are functional expertise involved. There are so many things to be done. Therefore, let me do decentralization and delegation. So then from mantra 5 to 11, there are 6 mantras. I am not going to get into those mantras, but I'll tell you what this rishi is saying. And I found something amazing in these mantras. Let me just quickly take you through that. So in a substance, what is he saying? He's saying CEO takes charge. When the Atman got into the body, the prana came. Prana is the CEO. This fellow is going to act now. That's why we are all alive and kicking. That's what we say when we say we are alive and kicking. The prana is there. The CEO takes charge. The CEO has the unity of command. But then the Rishi says the CEO knows that I can't do everything myself. So let me do delegation and decentralization. Then it talks about what kind of delegation and decentralization in the next 5 mantras. So if you read it, what you find is the Rishi talks about allocation of responsibilities and roles. He talks about independent domains of operation. You can't have a director of marketing poking into director of finance. The director of finance should not poke into director of operations. I mean, that will be chaos. So you should have independent domains of operation and you should have controls. Then the mantra also talks about handling exceptions. This alone I'll explain. This many people don't understand. See, there is something called udana. Prana, apana, vyana, udana. The word udana in Sanskrit, ud means to go up. Ut means up actually. So udana vayu in our body, the Rishi is explaining, it is something which goes up. It does two very important roles. One tactical role and one strategic role. So let me tell you what udana vayu does to you and me. Imagine there is a micron thick hair on your tongue. It's a small hair on my tongue. Now what will happen? I will become restless. It creates so much of discomfort. So much discomfort, either I have to spit it out or I have to put my hand and pull the hair out. Otherwise, I cannot settle. I'll become it's our experience, right? And if you take food poison, you take example of a food poison. You took something which is poisonous. Now the udana vayu will act. What it will do is you will either vomit or you will purge, depending upon whether it is in small intestine or big intestine. If you can neither vomit or nor purge, you will actually generate fever. Then you'll go to a doctor and then something will happen. All these are the job of udana vayu. This is called a tactical role. What is this tactical role? This is security and quality control. But udana vayu does another major role, which is strategic role. And what is that? If the CEO has to be pulled out of a crisis, this prana has to leave this body and go. One day the prana has to leave this body and go. That job is done by udana vayu. It's all beautifully written in another Upanishad in great detail. It pulls this prana out of this body and takes it out. So udana vayu plays two roles, a strategic role and a tactical role. All these are contained in this mantra. So let me show you what this is saying. What it is saying is we have what is called prana, apana, vyana, udana. The prana is the top management. That is the CEO. It has the unity of control. It is the chief administrator. Then you have what is called samana in our body. The samana is our powerhouse actually. It is the digestive system, the liver and all that. And that is what creates power for us to live. So that is the core operations. The samana is the equivalent of core operations for any business. Then you have what is called vyana. The description of vyana is amazing. It says 100 into 101 into 72,000. That is the number of branches in which the energy flows. Vyana. So that is called logistics and distribution. Whatever your know-how, you may be a product company or a service company. Your know-how in terms of products and services must be taken to the markets and to the customers. So that is what is described in vyana. Then you have what is called apana, which is the excretory system for us. Whatever after good operations, you have to dispose of the waste. You have to maintain quality. You have to do maintenance. You have to do waste disposal. All those are described in apana. Then you have, as I told you, you have udana, which is security and continuity planning. This much ideas is available in Prashna Upanishad if you wish. In fact, I used the udana vayu. I went to I was so impressed by this udana vayu. I went to Thermax, completely redesigned one of their factory using the principle of udana vayu. I completely redesigned. And they were quite, I was quite happy. They were quite impressed with that work, which I did some 20 years back. Because I took ideas from udana vayu and then redesigned that factory actually. So like this, there are very interesting ideas that are available in Indian knowledge systems. So I wanted to just give you a quick sort of, I just wanted to give a trailer of what Indian knowledge system has. Let me sort of take you through the way forward. If it is fine, can I move on and give some of my thoughts? Let me ask the moderator, can he go forward and give a few thoughts?
Because we will have questions later. So
Okay.
you continue with it, sir.
Thank you, sir. So the question is, what is the way forward? I have just sprinkled the tip of the iceberg for you in some ways. First thing is the question that may come, all these are fine. Why do we need it? This is all fine. I mean, of course, our ancestors are good. Perhaps they did well and they are all living today. I think let us thump our chest. Maybe we can pick one or two ideas here and there. Is there something more to it? So let me tell you, because here is a group of business people, I must emphasize on this point to you. Well, one can say, it's all about ancestral knowledge. Let me tell you, it is not about ancestral knowledge. As a business school professor, let me tell you, it is all about economic security and national pride. And let me explain it with two shining examples. Let me tell you, the next 100 years, you will all agree with me. The next 100 years is not the power, is not an economic power coming out of how large is your military, all that. It is a knowledge society. The next 100 years, it is all about who commands knowledge, who has superior knowledge. And no wonder there is so much of emphasis on intellectual property rights, IPR regime. World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, or USPTO, United States Patent and Technology Office, is busy giving patents because people have realized that's where the money is now. So let me give you two examples which affected India so that we understand why we need Indian knowledge system. In fact, a US company was awarded a patent for neem as a pesticide. Actually, neem as a pesticide, your grandmother and my grandmother knows. And it is a commonplace thing. Neem is a very typical plant in this country, a typical rain tree in this country. And for time immemorial, we know the value of neem. And we use it in our daily practices. This has been going generation after generation after generation. We could not actually fight this case. Because you cannot, as we all know, in simple English, what does patent mean? You said, I know it today. I came and told you I know it yesterday. You should give the patent to me. You cannot give it to, you, because you know it today, I know it yesterday. Now, I cannot go to USPTO and simply go and say, my ancestors know it 3,000 years back. Nobody is going to take us serious. It's not on face value. You have to put documents. You have to show evidence. You have to show it in so much concrete terms and so on. Where are they available? They are available in IKS. They are all written down in so many pieces and so many ways about which Indians are blissfully unaware of. So we failed, totally we failed. We could not actually do anything about this patent. Let me give you another example. Two Indians who were professors in University of Mississippi in the US, American citizens, of course. They applied for a patent for using powdered turmeric for wound healing. Again, this is something which the whole of this country uses. I mean, it's a simple treatment which we know for years and generations and millennia. So Dr. Mashelkar, who was the chairman of CSIR, Director General of CSIR, put 200 scientists on 8 to 10 years of work, collected so much data, we went and fought. After 10 years of hard work, we went and actually got that patent reversed. Do you have to do this much work in the next 100 years? Do we have to fight for things which is our natural endowment? That's a question I want to leave before you. Therefore, Indian knowledge system is not for saffronization, not to know Sanskrit, not for because it's good to know about ancestors. As a business school professor, I am telling you, if we want to win this game of global patenting war, there is every chance we may be able to say what we know earlier. I'll give you another example. 2nd century BC, we wrote Pingala wrote what is called Chandas Shastra. The Chandas, Anushtup Chandas, Trishtup Chandas, Gayatri Chandas, and so on. He wrote a piece called Chandas Shastra. In my book, I have a chapter in which I have culled out from Chandas Shastra and brought out the entire binary mathematics. The entire binary math is there. How? Because he used what is called Lagu and Guru. And he has come with beautiful algorithms 2,400 years back. If you put Lagu equal to 1 and Guru equal to 0, all those algorithms actually become binary triangle, binary, mathematics. Beautiful algorithms are there. Uttishta, Nashta, so many such algorithms are there. We all read in our thing called Pascal triangle. He has Pascal triangle. He who invented it. That is called Meru Prasthara. So like this, I can go on and on. I'm just telling you that we are sitting on a gold mine. So we have to, do something about it. Now, so therefore, what can we do now? This is the question. So before saying what can we do, I will tell you what we are doing today. This is what we do with IKS. we abandon them. That's the easiest thing. Or we keep it in a puja room and worship. We take the Bhagavad Gita, put it on the puja room, Ramayana, put it on the puja room, every day change the flower, maybe read a shloka, of course, apply the thing on our forehead and keep it. I do it, sir, but I bring Bhagavad Gita into my elective in IIM Bangalore. The most sought after elective in IIM Bangalore is my elective on Bhagavad Gita. 250 students want it. So I have brought it out of the puja room. Of course, I am a serious student of Bhagavad Gita. I read it. I do pravachan also. But what I am saying is, Indian knowledge system must come out of puja room and worship also. Third, people take positions without knowing what it contains. Simply they say Bhagavad Gita is religious. And I keep asking them, do you know Sanskrit? Have you read any shloka in original? And if they say no, I say, I don't discuss with you. Please be, I am very courteously, I say, I can't talk to you. Because an anesthetist should not talk to me. I am not an anesthetist. I am a professor of management. A metallurgist should not discuss with me because I don't know metallurgy. I have read metallurgy, of course, in my engineering days. So I think that's what is happening. The last category is people simply glorify past. Today a lot of Indians, you will agree with me, a lot of Indians have become postmasters. Morning sit with the WhatsApp, 100 WhatsApp come from here. You send it to another 100 people on this side. Receive another 100 WhatsApp on that side and send it on this side. What is it saying? India is great, Sanskrit is great, we have this, nobody knows what it is. But we are busy actually, doing this WhatsApp, mail transfer, this message transfer, simply glorifying the past. I think many of us are doing this. I want to say we can do something other than this in the name of Indian knowledge system. What can we do? First of all, we should get to know firsthand. It's extremely important. Sir, if I want to teach management, I should read management first. If I want to teach metallurgy, I should read metallurgy first. I should get it firsthand. I should know what it is before I get in and then talk to somebody about it. So therefore, Indian knowledge system also we have to do it. Let us first get to know what is Indian knowledge system. And then let us explore new paradigms. I think it has enough opportunities for it. Varaha Mihira wrote in 5th century, which is 1600 years back, he wrote what is called Brihad Samhita. It's like an encyclopedia. I think in that he has given 5 humanoids for male and 5 humanoids for female. What I mean by that is the geometric structure of male figure and the female figure. The breadth to length ratio of the neck, proportion of the neck to the upper limb to lower limb, like that. Yes, proportions. I think every textile manufacturer, ready-made textile manufacturer must read it. Maybe there is already something there. Our entire iconography was working with that. That's why our idols are so beautiful. So we can explore a lot of paradigms actually. So essentially, what can we do? We can fight and win emerging IPO battles. As I was saying, this is kartavya. Otherwise, as businesses, we will lose. As a country, we will lose. We will be once again, colonized for a different reason. We can identify application areas for immediate implementation. That's the second possibility. We can do deep studies in specialized areas leading to research, right? And we can, of course, visualize a new world order. I mean, it's a 4-step process. You can't jump straight away to visualizing a new world order, and all that is not going to happen. But to do all this, if you ask me, I think we need what is called IKS, which is a toolbox. IKS is merely a toolbox. If you give me a toolbox and tell me what to do with a spanner, what to do with a screwdriver, what to do with a cutting plier, then I'll take the toolbox and go. Maybe in a particular situation, I'll use a spanner. In a particular situation, I'll use a wrench and a spanner in a certain combination. So I think we should know the toolbox first and then look for problems to solve. I think that's something which we may have to do. That's my feeling. And in this journey to know the toolbox, I have put my 2 cents into the whole thing. I have written a book. Actually, whatever I have spoken to you today are a little bit from my book, The Indian Knowledge System, Introduction to the Indian Knowledge System. It's about 410 pages in which I have actually written all these. I think I will leave it here. I just wanted to give you a quick glance of what perhaps we have and so on. I will turn it over to our esteemed moderator for requesting him to take it forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Mahadevan, sir, for this wonderful journey. The book that you have mentioned is a fantastic document. And all those who are interested in knowing about IKS, I think this should be a wonderful guidebook to them. But coming to a question which was raised by one of the participants, I will just pose that question to you, sir, now.
Yeah.
He says, how do we attract the students? How do we ensure? Because the students come from various disciplines. They are from the discipline of commerce, discipline of science, discipline of arts. And at various stages in the career, they had to ultimately fix their, to the northern star. And the northern star differs. So how do we attract them? What I mentioned about the knowledge science, as I mentioned about the Paranapana Vidya, how do you ensure that the capacity to think and apply, the capacity to meditate and then to seek a solution, the capacity to charge your own intuition through the meditation, how do we take them in that direction? Some guidance is what one of the participants have asked for.
Yeah, so sir, at 2-3 different levels, we need to sort of address this issue.
Sure.
First of all, I wrote a book on operations management several years back. And one of the things that happened to me after I wrote the book was I did a global search and replace, because I could not go page after page and so on. I did a global search and replace. I searched the word brainstorming and I replaced it with the word brain stilling. I said, if you storm a brain, you will get nothing out of it. These are all Western terms. Sure. So I said, if you storm a brain, it will only go that far. Whereas if you still a brain, which is called yoga, if you still a brain, it actually opens up a very beautiful thought process in us. So first of all, I think trying to understand how to take charge of one's own mind is a massive life tool for every one of us, including the student. So that will address the distraction part of it, the kind of inability to fix their attention on something. That's one part of the story. But I think the other part of the story is equally important, and that is, sir, there is a great deal of thought that must go behind teaching all these. One thing I must tell you, that the youngsters are very keen to know it. It's not that youngsters are uninterested. The youngsters are very keen to know it. The only question is, are the teaching community ready to bring it in a way? My daughter used to tell me, you have to make it cool. I never understood the word cool until she told me, you have to make it cool to us. So it's a very term which is used in the last 5 years, 7 years. I have made my Bhagavad Gita course very cool. Let me tell you what it means. Every session, I have a 20 session of 3 hours, 1.5 hours, which make it 30 hours, a full credit course. In every session of my Bhagavad Gita course, although I may be actually taking actual shlokas and discuss them in some detail, the session starts invariably with a TEDx video or some video which is available in the YouTube or somewhere, which I'm able to, leverage that idea into Bhagavad Gita. So I think there is a great deal of pedagogical imagination which the teachers have to bring. And my students love it, because I bring, they literally cry when you bring some videos. And then I show the equivalent shlokas and say, let us now discuss how this issue is being addressed and why is this important and how it is being done and so on and so forth. So just to give you an example, Panchakoshas. Panchakosha, how do you teach? I have a inked video, 7-minute video. A great, handsome young person who came out of the army in Australia, wanted to become a physical education teacher, only to get run over by a truck. And he is completely paralyzed, chest down. But then this gentleman becomes a professional bike racer. I show a 7-minute video in which the whole transition happens, and I ask my students, describe this person. And they describe it for 20 minutes. You will find they will describe Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manonmaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, and Anandamaya Kosha. Everything will come out of it. So we have to be very imaginative. We can't bring these concepts and then get the hell out of them. They are not interested in that. But if we make it cool, they will go much farther than what we actually want them to do. So like this, there are many ideas that we need to do. I think it's very important. It's a very important point.
Kiran, please, present, sir.
Yeah, sir, wonderful session. Actually, you took us back and kept us mesmerized, making us realize all that we've been missing. There are two, India, sir, is a country, of puns. On the one hand, we have 1800-year-old, stambhas, which don't even show the slightest sign of erosion. And on the other hand, we have Mumbai roads with the first couple of rains, what is left is craters. So, and considering the fact that we had such a glorious past, where can we use the Indian knowledge systems and how do we go about actually finding, solutions for these problems? Today, if one gets into a B school classroom, if the session is on generative AI, okay, chat GPT, then there are hundreds of enrollments. And if we say we want to solve the problem of dirt in the streets of Mumbai Sakinaka, nobody enrolls because they feel that, there's no learning in there and there's no value addition. Whereas, as you rightly pointed out, the real learning and the real challenge is to be able to get to the grassroots of the issue and use all your reserves of knowledge to be able to come out with a sustainable solution. You've suggested various methods of how we need to think out of the box, get imaginative and solve this problem. I just wanted to ask you a question. Do you think that learning Sanskrit as a language should become a pre-requirement for even before one starts discussing the Indian knowledge system?
Sir, I think...
should it be made compulsory in B schools? I mean, should it become an elective in B schools?
Yes, sir, I offered, the moment I offered Bhagavad Gita, students asked me to offer a course on Sanskrit. So I offered a 3-credit course called Introduction to Sanskrit Language for 3 years. I offered and some 50, 60 students actually took. So the point is, you are right, sir. The point is, Sanskrit, I learned Sanskrit all by myself. I am a self-learned Sanskrit person actually. Sanskrit, the journey that I have gone through is Sanskrit is a phenomenal language, not just because we want to know a little bit of IKS and etc. All that. That's an add-on benefit. So structurally, your thinking process changes when you learn Sanskrit. So I would very strongly argue that the sooner somebody learns Sanskrit, the better it is. And there is a huge misconception that Sanskrit is a very hard language to learn. Whereas my own personal experience, sir, my mother tongue is Tamil. I lived in a village. Beyond Tamil, I knew nothing. Then God has been kind, I knew English. A little bit of English I knew. This is my background. But when I learned Sanskrit, when I was doing my PhD at IIT Madras, what I realized was it opened a world of opportunities and thinking for me. So therefore, I think the Sanskrit is extremely crucial. It is a mind-expanding idea, actually. It's such a beautiful thing that our ancestors have given us. Unfortunately, we think it is all difficult. I mean, there's a whole model which went behind it. So let us not really worry too much about that. I think rather talking about the past, as you said, we have to now look forward. I think learning Sanskrit will, if people are logical, if people are commonsensical, Sanskrit can be learned on their own. They don't even need a second person, actually.
True, sir. Thank you so much. You actually mentioned Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar and his fight for the patent on turmeric. And BMA is extremely proud, sir, that we are very closely associated with Dr. Mashelkar, and he guides us on various initiatives that we do. And in fact, we have something called as the BMA Annual Awards, and he is our chief jury. for the awards, and satisfying him is something that is sort of a requirement that each one of us takes it as a personal challenge, because he actually goes through the entire process very, very diligently. So if there are several former presidents of BMA who are there in the session today, so if I would urge any one of them to...
Sir, I would like to, Dr. Kiran, I have some questions, please.
Yeah,
Pramod
we
Shah,
have
yes.
Mr. Pramod Shah. He's our Vice President of BMA, and Pramod Shah ji, please go ahead and...
Right, sir. One is, sir, Professor Mahadevan, you have got excellent exposure of the knowledge and old traditions and new traditions. We are proud of you, sir. Only two small questions are there. So one is ancient teaching and modern technology. Sir, will it be possible to bring ancient technology to modern teachings? And number two question is, how digitization would affect the education system, sir?
Yeah, sir, very, very important question, sir. In fact, I meant to even answer part of it when I was talking to Dr. Kiran also. Sir, please understand, there is this, frequently I hear this question. Sir, is allopathy good or Ayurveda good? So, some people say, no, allopathy is good. Some people say Ayurveda, then they say integrated medicine and so on. So I have a very similar view. First of all, it is not digital. In a digital world, it is not digital. It is not ancient or today. It is actually both. The real charm is our ability to know how to integrate these two. Modern brings a bunch of ideas and things. So I will state the first sentence. Bhagavad Gita is famous today because Shankaracharya wrote a Bhashya. Until then, nobody knew Bhagavad Gita. It was buried under Mahabharata Shanti Parva. Shankaracharya wrote a Bhashya. Then Jnaneshwari, everything came. A lot of different beautiful commentaries came. Shankaracharya, in an abnormal way, only for Bhagavad Gita, he wrote a 20 lines preamble. Why am I writing? It is called Upodgata. In Sanskrit, they call it as Upodgata, the preamble. Why am I writing a commentary on Bhagavad Gita? In that, I will tell you the first sentence. I will tell it in Sanskrit and tell you what he really meant. Where that will answer the question that you asked. He said, Dvivido Vedokto Dharma Pravritti Lakshano Nivritti Lakshanascha Jagataha Sthiti Karanam Praninam Sakshat Abhyudaya Nishreyasa Hetuhu. Here's a beautiful sentence. He says, the stability of the world critically depends on two dharmas. One is called Pravritti Dharma, another is called Nivritti Dharma. He introduces like that. And he says one is required for Abhyudaya, which is materialism and being good and making a lot of money, being comfortable, being very secured, etc., having a good car, all that. And Nivritti Dharma, which means I call it as the art of dying. Art of living is okay. Art of dying is very important. We should have a last sleep which is very peaceful. That is very, very important. And that is called Nivritti Dharma. So therefore, the Indian education very strongly believed in balancing these two. Whereas the Western education of which we are part of, it is just swinging it only on the Pravritti Dharma. I mean, how do you become this? What is my goal of life? Have I become a CEO? Can I get this promotion? Only to become a nervous wreck after some time. So therefore, I think we should use digital technology for Nivritti Dharma. We should bring the thick of Indian education. The Indian education shines in this, that we should get our youngsters and every working professionals to know the life is a beautiful balance of Pravritti Dharma and Nivritti Dharma. And that's what I think we should use both. It is not this or that. I think we have to be very nicely, we should pick and choose and that kind of stuff.
Thank you very much, sir, for a very excellent answer. And we have learned many things from you, sir. And I feel that your message should go to all young students in the country. Thank you, sir. And come again also to BMA Forum through our kind courtesy of my president, Mr. Dr. Kiran Yadav.
I think Radha Kumar from St. Xavier's College has a question. So can I please request you, Radha, to unmute and ask the question?
Namaskaram, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, you are.
Thank you so much, sir, for this very inspiring lecture. I'm from the Department of Ancient Indian History, Culture, Archaeology. And now, as you know, thanks to this yagna that has started, IKS is a compulsory credit for all students across. So I think, some of us who are in this space for so many years, this was our dream, and I'm so happy that this is happening. Because as you very rightly said, every student in this country should understand the beautiful knowledge system, the jnana that is existing. Now, sir, my question is, when we are looking at jnana, there are two categories that you have said, and can we, sir, also have the archaeological sources as a separate category in studying this process of jnana?
Yeah.
Because archaeological source, yes,
yeah,
sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you talk of Indian knowledge system, basically, if you talk of Indian knowledge system, there are three parts to it.
Yes.
One is the living structures.
Yes.
There is so much learned from living structures. The second is the literary source, which means all these texts and scriptures, etc., etc.
Yes.
The third, equally compellingly important domain is the archaeological domain.
Absolutely.
I think all in my book, I have all the three.
Okay, sir.
I
Thank
have
you.
brought archaeological evidences. I have brought living structures. I have brought literary resources.
Lovely,
all the
sir.
three are weaved into this book, actually. It's
Thank
very
you
important.
thank you so much, sir. Because what we are also doing in college, if I can just take with the kind permission of the moderator, we are also integrating this as a part of the entire discourses with the BMM, BMS, because there are so many disciplines. So we have other faculty members also now studying. Now, for example, if you're looking at botany, Vriksha Ayurveda is such an important text, Parasaras. So we have some of our professors from the botany department who are collaborating with us. So even the concept of Rina and Rita, we're talking about ecological sustainability. So these discourses and even the Varnashrama Dharma, which is so simple, but it brings out such an important aspect. So we are also trying to get the sociology department so that this becomes some kind of a yagna where everyone, contributes to their auntie. So thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful lecture. And thank you, sir, Kiran Yadavji, for giving me the opportunity of asking this question. Thank you and namaskaram. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Radha ma'am. Before I request our former president, Chaya Saigalji, to propose a vote of thanks and give her comments, because we are nearing the 7:30 mark, I just want to thank all the participants today and simply quote our secretary, Rishi Jagmohan Singh ji, who says that BMA tries to bring management thought and practice to its members. And membership of BMA is simply something that you can gain by eating chapati bhaji for 3 days instead of a pizza. That's the cost of a BMA membership. So I would urge all of you who feel that you can get some value out of becoming members of BMA to kindly take this opportunity and join us in this journey of trying to make management thought and practice stronger India.
Sir, I would like to, if you don't mind, I want to put one parting slide before the vote of thanks, if you permit me.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. So, this is something which is very important. We see it as a familiar sight in temples. So, I want to narrate a small story. There was a temple, and of course, outside the temple, there are some beggars. Sometimes sit and they ask for alms and so on and so forth. So one day, one sannyasi was about to enter into the temple. So one beggar asked for the alms. So the sannyasi told him, I am also supposed to beg. So therefore, I am not in a position to give you anything. But he was sitting on a wooden box, an old wooden box on which he was sitting. So the sannyasi told, don't you open the wooden box and see what is there? So this beggar said, no, sir, I am a 5th generation beggar. My great-grandfather sat on this table and he also begged. My grandfather, my father, and I am now sitting. So what is the point? So sannyasi smiled at him and said, whether you sit on the top of a box for 1 hour or 1 million hours, until you open and see what it is, you may not know what it is. And then he went in. That's all. So this beggar, after 2-3 days, this sentence was sort of really reverberating in his mind. He took a big stone and then broke that lock and he opened it. He was actually sitting in a box full of gold and diamonds and so on. So I want to leave this story with all of us today before I hand it over back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Kiran, just one moment.
Yeah.
Sorry to, sir, we are not looking for the stone now, sir. We are past the stone age. We are looking at the professor. We are looking at the professor, and I am going to seek a vote of friends who are around here as to how do we reach out to you and ensure that this doesn't become just a one-off session. And I know you have tremendous call on your times. You are very busy. You have almost a 7-day, 365-day schedule, and it would be very difficult. But with Professor Kiran Yadav's help and with the members of the other executive committee, we'll chart out some paths together and seek your time, because as they talk about the tiger in the forest, if he has tasted human blood, he will be after it.
Good
So
God.
not using the same analogy here. I think the audience who was here listening to what you said, your passion, your depth in every subject, and your willingness to share what the students and the teachers want, both of us, because they're there, both of us at this end, has only taken us to the next stage, and that we will, in consultation with the committee and the past president and the board, come out with a plan, submit to you for suggestions, and we will ensure that from our part, we will try to open the lock. That much we can assure you, sir. And thank you very much. I know you are hard pressed for time, but I will go on, keep on sending you messages, because I'm part of the WhatsApp generation now. And that's probably the only way one can communicate. So we'll do that, sir. And we hope that you will get a positive response. And as we work out with a plan, we'll come to you with it. And we will try and take the audience here who are very keen to really ascend the path and watch those millions of suns again. I truly believe in that Divya Surya Sahasrasya message that comes as loud and clear.
Thank you. Thank you, Page, sir. I think you have very clearly indicated our intention of becoming the Vyana of the IKS toolkit. So we will put all our might to distribute it and use it maximum. So can I now invite Chaya ma'am to please.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, Chaya.
Yes, yes.
Am I audible? Okay. So, hello, good evening, sir, Professor Mahadevan, Dr. Vijay Page, and Dr. Kiran Yadav. It was an invaluable opportunity today to sit through this session, sir. I am probably speaking on behalf of everybody to extend a vote of thanks. It's not a pleasant duty today. It's an absolute honor. It's an absolute honor to propose a vote of thanks for a session which can be weighed in gold, actually. Time could not have been spent more, what I should say, not spent. Time could not have been invested in a better manner than this, what was given to us today by BMA. Congratulations to BMA Secretariat and the President for starting the sessions in the Platinum Jubilee year with this amazing, amazing exposure on Indian knowledge systems. Dr. Mahadevan, I heard you for the first time, and believe me now, whenever I'm going to get an opportunity to hear you or to read you, I'm never going to lose it for anything. We call it Indian knowledge systems, but it is much more than a system. Every system has a boundary, and there are some limitations. So on the overall basis, if we look at the Indian knowledge repository, it has no boundaries. Within that, how beautifully each and every subject has been systematically included, and the boundaries have been set, whether it is for Arthashastra, whether it is for metallurgy, whether it is for architecture, or whether it is for anything else, was so beautifully outlined for you. We couldn't have had a better capsule on IKS in 1 hour. This reminds me of nanotechnology. I mean, we keep talking about AI, we keep talking about digitization, but when we talk about homeopathy, we know that they use nanotechnology when they hand grind the particles and make sure that it reaches each and every part of our body. So today, the way this session was presented, I think it had a full utilization of nanotechnology concept in knowledge management scenario. And sir, you really gave away that capsule so liberally to all of us that none of us probably know the subject. Maybe just what I should say, just the tip of the iceberg is what we know, but we get a full idea of what we could be up for if and when we choose to explore this area. And sir, I would very sincerely urge that we need to really look at how to integrate this in our education system, because we don't believe in keeping things to us, isn't it, sir? The Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, those principles are where our knowledge and our wisdom is based upon. And as India is emerging as the world guru and we are looking at becoming the third largest economy soon, I think it's high time we started leveraging on what we have inherited. And I think it should go at the grassroots level. I particularly felt Professor Radha's, Professor Radha's, I think all that account that she gave on how she's integrating it in her college, very, very inspiring. And I think we should do that at every level, sir, because the best practices should always be shared, and we have to find a way of getting knowledge into the system of the education in our country. Only then will everybody become aware, learn, and then start using it for the advantage of the country, of the world, and of the self and the humanity, sir. The way they say, Swadeshe Pujyate Raja, Vidwan Sarvatra Pujyate. The Western, the Western education system, especially the management and the leadership systems, they teach us how to become the kings, But our knowledge systems, they teach us how to become Vidwan, so that we find followership everywhere. And that is what we are looking at as a world leader now. So this will be my request. I think BMA can play a very active role, Kiran, in this Platinum Jubilee year, to start some kind of a initiative where we can integrate the Indian knowledge systems into the management schools education and their syllabus, in some way or the other. And sir, we will need your support in this. I think that will be the best way to what I should say, repay back this guru run that we have acquired from you today. And maybe Kiran can think of giving all of us a small certification on how we have got now bird's eye view on IKS, because we got it from the best. So thank you very much for a wonderful session. We look forward to many more such sessions with you, Dr. Page. Thank you so much for being over there. And Dr. Kiran Yadav, thank you so much for hosting this beautiful session. And I think thanks are due for the very enthusiastic participants as well. Because as much as, the guru is there to selflessly give away the knowledge, unless the shishyas are there, there has to be somebody to make use of it also. So all these people who attended today's program, I think they need to be congratulated as well for having utilized their time so beautifully. So thank you very much. Once again, we look forward to many more such sessions, and we look forward to being connected with you and learning from you, sir, over and over again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words. I am blessed and privileged to be in the company of all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So I think that brings us to the end of today's Saturday SenSession. And thank you, sir, for making it truly sensational. We will definitely seek guidance and collaboration with Professor Mahadevan to try and come out with a mechanism of how BMA can benefit and help in actually, as down the line, getting students and members interested in learning from IKS. So thank you very much, sir. And all of the participants, please keep your radar open for another Saturday SenSession that BMA will be soon announcing. Thank you. Good night, Shubharatri, and all of you. Stay safe. Enjoy whatever is left of your weekend, and see you soon. Thank you, Professor Mahadevan. And all our past presidents and presidents.
I would like to just send one word that Professor Mahadevan is not a Mahadev, but he's a Mahadevan. See, so he's got a Dev and Maha is also superior Dev for all of us. Thank you.
This is the month of Mahadev only, correct?
Yeah.
We are in the month
And
of
Dr. Vijay, congrats to you for moderating, sir. And we have read your book also, and your knowledge also is very immense. And we'll be able to utilize your talent for BMA function. I'm talking as a vice president of BMA, and myself and Dr. Kiran work hand in hand to see that every member gets some benefit from BMA membership. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.